Everyone, welcome to this conversation. Thanks for joining us live today. I am Samuel, the CX and AI strategist at Birdie, and in this session we'll be going over the ticket that shouldn't exist with Fiona Green. She's the director of user experience at KOHO. And just some quick notes that I want to for everyone to be aware. So this is a 30-minute session with a quick Q&A session at the end. We are live on LinkedIn, so please drop your questions anytime in the chat. When we get to the Q&A session, we are gonna pick some of them up before we fully wrap up. And please make sure to follow Birdie and also Fiona Green on LinkedIn. For anyone new to Birdie, Birdie is a customer intelligence platform that connects customer signals and interactions to retention, expansion, and product adoption, giving CX team the tools to turn insights into funded actions. I will talk a little bit more about Birdie in the end, but for now, let's get to Fiona's story, which will be a great demonstration on how Birdie works in practice. And just setting up the context before Fiona takes over. So one thing that she will go over is that most CX talks, they usually focus on how to handle context faster, how to reduce average handling time, how to solve the customer issue faster. But Fiona's stories is actually focused on a more strategic level. Her team at KOHO stopped asking how do we solve tickets faster, but actually started asking which tickets should have never existed. Like the team should not be dealing with that situation. That single reframe led to a 75% reduction in inbound contact volume, and that is a record low for KOHO. And they're actually growing. So it's with a growing customer base, they were able to reduce the contact rate in 75%. So that's not a one-off campaign. That was a clear structural shift in how the business treats support volume. So today, Fiona is gonna walk us through exactly how they did this, what didn't work, what did work, and what framework her team is using now. So Fiona, we are excited to have you here with us. I will let you introduce yourselves. Just the final reminder for everyone watching, please drop your questions in the LinkedIn at the LinkedIn chat as we go, because in the end we'll have the Q&A session. So over to you, Fiona.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As mentioned, my name is Fiona. I'm the Director of User Success, or CX, at KOHO. KOHO is a fast-growing fintech. We're based exclusively in Canada and have over 2 million customers. I want to emphasize how important the customer experience is at KOHO because we're entirely digital. So there's no branches to visit, there's no real human-to-human interaction. So really those touch points with support and having the most seamless user experience is of the utmost importance. So I'm really excited to bring to you today. Samuel mentioned what didn't work. I'm sure I could spend 30 minutes alone talking about that, and then kind of the knowledge sharing of our success as well. So kind of the key focus today is, of course, how we got to the 75% reduction, and it all started with a question. So we were posed by our executive team, how can we scale the company, because we're going to continue to grow, without band-aid solutions and continuing to just add agents to the problem. So we zoomed out and we wanted to see how can we eliminate those points of friction. Do we have existing journeys or processes by our own design that don't need to exist at all? We were doing very well with NPS, CSAT, handling time, and we decided to pivot focus and bring everything into a totally different direction. So that's kind of the overarching theme of what we're going to talk about today. The big problem statement here was during this immense period of growth, we're going to go back 3 or 4 years now, our contact rate was high and continuing to surge. We were trying to scale rapidly. We were hiring very frequently, lots of agents being onboarded and ramped up quickly. But we knew that this was not going to be a future-proof design. This was not going to take us into the future. So this is how we landed on, let's eliminate the points of friction. What are we doing that we can remove so our customers don't need to speak with support at all? I got what I thought was every CX leader's dream, and that was my own dedicated CX development team, so a tech team. They were functioned directly to us, so we were supposed to kind of bucket all of our problems. Here, these are the points of friction. Can you eliminate those for us? And what I thought would be a dream, in reality, didn't solve the problem in reducing friction. The reason for that is that we found that our partners across product and marketing would then pass all of these things that really are product problems over to the CX development team to fix. So we were now bottlenecking and creating another point of failure here. So we ran this pilot with having a dedicated development team to our CX efforts for about 6 months and decided it was just not yielding any fruit there. So that was scrapped. We also had an opportunity to have regular product meetings on the books. So the CX team and our product partners would meet monthly. The reason that didn't work was they lacked focus. I'm sure that there's other people on this call that can understand how expensive a meeting like that is to have your whole team of product managers across domains coming together, but the monthly cadence didn't work. It was hard for people to understand what really needed to be actioned. It really did feel like a one-way feedback loop between us and product. They would intake all of the things that we identified as being problems, but there was no clear sense of follow through. Again, with the cadence of the meetings, we were almost always missing when they were building their roadmaps. So it was very hard to get the things that we knew to be problems prioritized. So we were at a standstill. Both of these things that we thought were going to be the solution to all of our problems didn't work out. This all just started with a reframe. So we were doing amazing reports. We had beautiful voice of customer reports. It was really in the framing of the message that was not resonating with our cross-functional stakeholders. Support volume is not a support team metric. We wanted to make it clear that this is symptomatic of a product and operations, and dare I say, a whole business metric. We wanted everybody to know that every contact to support is a failure in the user journey. There's something that is disrupting their flow and stopping them from being successful in what they need to complete. And support was absorbing all of that downstream burden. So here I present the rebooted framework that we count as the reason that we are successful today. So the first one is aligning around a shared outcome. Product really viewed support context, like I mentioned, as a customer support responsibility. The volume alone didn't resonate with them. For instance, if you come to a product meet and say, we've got 1,500 chats this month, is 1,500 high or is it low? Are these people frustrated or are they happy with what's going on? So we really needed to package this in a way that's digestible to the product and cross-functional partners. I do want to talk about our login issue, which was the primary source of our volume. So instead of saying we're getting a lot of chats from people that are logged out of their accounts, one of the turning points was we're saying because users can't log into their accounts, it's preventing them from funding and transacting, and it's leading to a churn problem. So it's also impacting our bottom line retention numbers as well. That reframing made it way more appealing for product buy-in and for them to actually start paying attention to what we needed to do. The second point is to drive customer behaviors. So we're coming to them with a problem. Users can't log in, but that's really vague to prioritize. Product managers are very solution oriented, and it was very hard for them to deal with something so abstract. So we wanted to say, we want to reduce the number of users who contact support, and we want to enable them to do this through self-recovery and access this without having to have support interventions. Having that very clear customer behavior instantly translated to product. And now that was something for them to be able to sink their teeth into and start to build clear targets towards, so they can start to add this to their roadmap. This can go into their sprints. This was something that a product manager can better visualize. And then the last one is delivering business impact. So like I mentioned before, we were bringing kind of aggregate conversation volume to these conversations with our product team, but the number alone really doesn't resonate or indicate, how we're supposed to be successful here. So we then started assigning a value. It costs X amount of dollars for every single contact that comes to support. We would be able to save X amount of dollars if we save that and reallocate that into the business. Okay, that framing makes it way more appealing for product to want to start to do something. To add another layer onto it, we know that customers that are specifically experiencing this particular problem have the lowest NPS scores. They tend to take to social, they'll go to Reddit, they'll go to Twitter. So there's also brand implications if we don't solve this. So these other kind of qualifying KPIs are a way for us to help incentivize the product team to enact upon this change. So we had a telemetry problem. Prior to our move to Birdie, for which is kind of a big supporting player in this story of ours, we were relying on very archaic methods of tagging, which we know is very much prone to human error. It's not granular enough. It can be very broad strokes. So we were coming to the table to say, we know that we have an issue with our login experience. Customers are citing issues with resetting their password. That alone is just too broad and vague to be able to take action to. And we were getting probed by our partners in tech and security and product to continue to drill down. They need more data. So this is where the diagnostic layer was of utmost importance to us. We wanted to be able to split this big problem into multiple buckets. So, hey, we have this broad umbrella of login issues, but there's about 5 or 6 sub-issues. If we were to eliminate all of these sub-issues, then we would continue to eat away at the contact volume here. So I alluded to this earlier, but what we found was that login and account recovery was one of our highest contact drivers. So to put that into perspective, that was about a quarter of all of the conversations that were coming to support. I do want to caveat that became our biggest driver after we'd made really great progress eliminating some other contact drivers, and this was kind of one of the last big rocks for us to push. we'd been treating it as a support problem. So we would see in the UX journey every bit of failure point that a customer would reach, it would say, reach out to support for this, chat with support, contact support. I'm sure that there's many people that are in the CX industry listening to this call that can empathize with that. You'll look at design, Figma designs, product designs, and you'll see that they'll wedge in a contact to support as kind of a band-aid treatment for a UX journey that was not well thought out or accounted for. And that was very much the case here. We just let support absorb the burden of something that really, really needed to be self-serve. So to make a long story short, we determined that this was a product problem, and it wasn't really support's role to continue to take on the burden of these conversations. So to the right of our screen here, I have what our UX was prior to this big fundamental change that we made. So we can see that there was many instances of support, again, just kind of being the fallback response. So if somebody had lost access to a phone number, which is a key and critical part of our login process, we would point them to an agent to help out. But again, there would be users that would become frustrated, make this attempt, and then give up, because we all know that chatting with support for somebody that has little time and is on the move is kind of the least desirable outcome for them. So every locked out user really did end up being a support contact. How do we solve this? It's all about getting the right people in the room. So knowing that login was the biggest issue, it was made up of several sub-issue types that with the assistance of Birdie, we were able to diagnose. We now have enough of a business case, and it's about getting the right partners to help move this from an idea into a reality for us. So this was not a support success in and of itself. We had a PM, so we found a product manager that was then functioned directly to solving this initiative. We had partners in tech, because it would require, of course, a tech build to rebuild all of the journey flows. Because we're dealing with login, we had members from our security team, and then, of course, user success, which is my CX team. It's rare when I speak to other peers in the CX industry for a support team to be at the table designing the problem, which I think is just so important for us to be a key stakeholder at every part of the product design process. So we have an image here. We went very old school. We all gathered in a room together, did a whiteboard exercise, equipped with our insights, and really did disassemble this experience and rebuild it together. And user success's voice in this case was so instrumental in us optimizing the login flows. This is not just a one and done. We being user success, are part of the product design review process at KOHO. So every time a product manager is building a proposal for a new feature or a new initiative they want to do, they do require sign off from my CX team, wherein we put in our user requirements that we need. We give them insights or data from our archives that can help influence kind of what they want to do with their build, and make sure that all of our support requirements are accounted for. What this means in practice is that gone are the days where we will just arbitrarily have a contact support button as a fallback response for a journey that hasn't really been well thought out or accounted for. So in short, was this a success? It was a resounding success. the volume dropped significantly almost instantaneously once we put this live into the hands of our customers. So I had touched on this before. The prior experience was if somebody wants to log in, if they had lost access to their telephone number, they'd almost immediately hit a wall and would need to come to support and be subject to chatting in or emailing into us, hitting those dead ends, which is incredibly frustrating, as we would see pop up in our App Store reviews. And what we did as a direct reaction to that is made this a totally autonomous self-serve journey for customers. So if they'd lost access to their phone number, we would, in essence, build a flow that was replicating what our human agents were doing anyways. They would be able to make that phone number update change and then went through an identity verification process, all within the app experience, all completed within a matter of minutes, and they were back in the app without any human touch needed. Not only did it, of course, influence our contact volume, which we saw drop, we also had other qualitative metrics influenced as well. So a rise in NPS, a decrease in frustrated App Store and Reddit threads about the login experience. So there was really a multi-win outcome from this initiative that we did together. In terms of a visualization, I do have here our little journey. So we started this 3 years ago, illustrating the tipping point. So when things were really bad and we were, breaking our backs trying to absorb all of this additional volume that was coming as a result of our surmountable business growth. We then moved on to the dedicated CX team that I alluded to earlier, where we were able to see little bits of volume decreased as we chipped away at smaller problems. But of course, support is only one player, and this really is about that cross-functional effort altogether. So we want to feed this model into every aspect of our product journeys. We also highlight here with Birdie going live. Birdie, transparently, is who we work with here and is helping provide us with that diagnostic layer. We're able to expedite our analysis using that for our voice of customer insights, and able to get incredibly specific with our feedback. So gone are the days of broad strokes. Users are having issues with logging in. Users can't reissue their card. We're able to unearth much deeper insights. Then just in January of this year, our working group kicked off with all of our cross-functional partners. The fix was shipped, and bringing us to just April is that 75% reduction in overall conversation volume. So we are definitely happy with how this turned out, but I do want to emphasize to all of the other CX leaders out here, it isn't just a one and done, this has solved all of our problems. This is essentially now our blueprint for any future endeavors that happen at KOHO. So this will definitely influence our product and cross-functional collaborations for now and many years to come. And one thing to note is that we are meeting this record low contact rate as our user base grows. So we've been able to keep our headcount flat at the agent level and continue to chip away at incoming contacts. What this means now is that our support agents, who are available 24/7, are now able to work on super meaningful problems. So instead of just helping somebody change a phone number, they're now able to reallocate that time to solving more complex problems, spending more time with their customers, having more conversations with them and building that deeper connection. Whereas before, of course, when you're met with this insurmountable volume, really the directive is to solve as quickly as possible, exit that customer, and take the other one on. So it's been really multifold how influential driving the contact volume has been for us in terms of improving our overall CX experience. I do have 3 questions I want everybody that's here to take back to their respective teams. This helped us illuminate so much and kind of zoom out and see what we really want to do. I will say at the start of this journey, there was a sense of panic and then the need to just eliminate points of friction very quickly. And I would like to ask my younger self to like pause and really think about creating kind of a future-proof solution. So questions you should take back is, where is product friction your team is papering over? By papering over, it's exactly what I mentioned before. Do you see journeys in the experience where the UX designer has just put a insert chat with support here without much thought, and just the expectation is for the support team to absorb the burden of resolving that customer issue? A good exercise we did is we did an intake of every single user flow where that happened and really analyzed whether it needed to happen or not. So I would pose that to anybody listening today as a great starting point. The second is, which contacts should never have existed? Are there things that your customers are answering or having to come to support to answer that you could make self-serve? Is there opportunities to bring that information into your application or your user experience so that they don't have to connect with support to have that exchange of information? Of course, login was our big one, but to give other examples, we, of course, being a fintech, we deal with transactional issues a lot. So we've been able to surface more clearer decline codes to customers, for instance. Before, if they would experience a decline, it would just say, your charge is declined. They would come to a support agent and ask for the reason. Well, we took that as an opportunity to, like, why don't we give our customers the same level of detail that an agent would and surface that in app for them? And the third and final question is, what would it take to get cross-functional partners in the same room? We know that everybody has competing priorities and a lack of time. So what would be needed to incentivize the people that need to kind of come together to solution this with you to do so? Whether it's in a Google Hangout asynchronously, or like we did when we found a co-working space and just spent an afternoon hammering it out. I think that that's one of the final takeaways for everybody here to bring back to their teams.
Wow, amazing. Thanks, Fiona, for the very candid and practical presentation. I feel that one reminder that you gave everyone that was watching that is so powerful is that tickets, they don't only impact customer support. They impact a lot of business points, such as like brand reputation, what they're gonna talk with their friends, with social media, with their family. So it relates to NPS, it relates to the customer experience overall. So very important, how can we like see the ticket itself or the customer support itself, not just as something for us to quickly solve, but actually for us to really make it into a pleasant experience so that customers don't hit those, like, you know, those blockages that really they don't know what to do, so they are frustrated. And maybe they might start looking for other options, which is not something great. So great reminder there, and thanks a lot for the presentation. I feel like, and again, like, congratulations. We already spoke about it, but it was an amazing result your team had, and we are glad of being part of this story together here with Birdie. So we have a few minutes for a quick Q&A. I do see some questions in our LinkedIn chat, but before we go there, I actually do want to make the first one. While you were presenting, you mentioned that you already had like some presentations involving product managers inside KOHO, but they were not landing how, like, they were not being implemented into real action. What do you feel was, the main metric or the main strategy that really helped to turn this around, like to getting the solution implemented, or to getting to that room, like you said, old school, with getting people together and better understanding what's going on? How do you feel like you guys got this first wheel spinning?
I would definitely attribute it to mapping back to retention and churn metrics. So this is having to speak the language of the rest of the business. Contact volume alone does not translate well outside of the CX department. So to say that, hey, if we don't solve this, we have enough indication that users are soft churning and they're getting frustrated with the experience and not loading their account. That became the more appealing angle. And I also want to remind everybody that chats alone are a great signal, but for every conversation that happens, they say 75% of customers are not contacting support at all. So there's with issues such as login, there's people that are trying and just abandoning the journey altogether. And that was enough to put kind of the energy into the conversations with us, that we knew that we needed to take swift action here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great answer there. I feel like getting the correct business metric, it's always going to be a great strategy. So I do see one question right here from Stacy. Hey Fiona, what did you use to understand the journey signals that customers would go through before contacting support?
That's such a great question. So this is a little bit of a shameless plug for Birdie, but Birdie was able to analyze that on a conversation level. So prior to using a voice of customer sentiment tool like that, we would rely on agents tagging it the conversation just to say reset password issues, and that is so broad and unactionable. But using this diagnostic layer, we were able to see that the customers were saying very specifically, I'm getting blocked when I need to enter my phone number. I'm getting blocked because I need to update my email. So we were able to translate all of those insights at scale to be able to make that solution. That's one component, but then we also went very old school, and I'm a big proponent of just using your own your own account and trying to reproduce these customer issues. So we went in, we were taking screenshots, we were trying to mimic where all of the failure points were, and we're able to chart those out and have that visual map as well. So I think that it's really a two-pronged approach there.
Amazing, perfect. So we do have time for one last question. I'm gonna pick the one that just appeared from Pat. So is there any other company, fintech or not, whose self-service experience inspires KOHO or yourself?
I do use Revolut, I think, as kind of Revolut and Nubank, of course, being peers in the financial technology industry. I think that they really are about empowering customers to self-serve as much of the journey as possible. And I do know that they think kind of the similar framework as contacts being kind of a failure of the product not working as well. But I would love to hear from other people if there's other ones that you're getting inspired by lately. And I think that's a great opportunity if you want to connect on LinkedIn and idea share. That's my favorite way to talk shop.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great call. Perfect. So Fiona, I'm just gonna close this conversation. So thanks a lot for sharing this playbook with us, and for being so honest about even the parts that didn't work before, and what you guys are doing that is having impact. I think if we were to summarize everything into just 1 or 2 lines, is that support volume should not be considered a support issue. It's a product issue, it's an operation issue in disguise, and once this gets treated that way, the results and the customer experience really changes overall. So again, Fiona, thanks a lot for your time, for having us.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Perfect. So everyone, before we wrap up, I just have 2 quick things. So the first one, it's starting to appear right there in the screen. So our next guest that we are gonna have for the webinar series is Bill Stakos. If you follow his work, you know that it's gonna be an amazing conversation. So make sure to set this up in your calendar. It's gonna be on June 4th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That will be on a Thursday. So we are gonna share more details coming soon, but follow Birdie in our LinkedIn page so that you don't miss the announcement. And just the final thing on Birdie, so just a reminder, we are a customer intelligence platform that connects customer signals and interactions to retention, expansion, product adoption, and we give CX teams the tools to turn insights into funded actions, so into actions that get prioritized. Birdie combines the voice of customer with quality management as well in a single system, so CX leaders can diagnose the root cause, the real cause for every problem. Product leaders, they know what to ship with that approach, and the whole company can then prove the business impact on whatever is being prioritized. And also, as AI agents are entering more customer-facing production, Birdie can also become the context layer that those agents plug into. So that makes Birdie also an infrastructure tool, not just a single tool. If you want to know more, like if you want help applying what Fiona just walk us through in your own CX setup, in your own CX team, the link to talk to our team, it's available in the description. So please do reach us out. And thanks again, everyone, for joining. And we'll see you on June 4th with Bill. Thanks, everyone.